So, kicking off the show with the Patriots. Now, I was on Instagram and made a reel about this Belichick's full page ad. And you know what? From my standpoint, I appreciated it. I did because I was thinking about it and going through it, and I felt like I wanted to nitpick, just to nitpick. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? The dude put out a full page ad, which is classy because it was in the actual newspaper, not on Twitter, not on Instagram, as we know Belichick and Snapface, right? So he actually put a full page ad in the newspaper. Very classy move. I really appreciate it. And the guy, I want to say, is truly genuine when he talks about us, the fans, and how, we traveled, we meant a lot to him, in that it was something where it was personal and he meant every word of it. Now, people I've heard listen to Felger and Maz nitpick, and I'm like, okay, now you're really getting too much. Maz going in on the fact that he's using exclamation marks, and Mr. Tufts Maz is talking about how he's such a grammar expert that exclamation marks should never be used. Well, let's pump the brakes, okay? The only thing I would argue or agree with them is the fact that, you know what, it took him quite a while before he finally sent that out. So outside of that, really did enjoy Belichick's full page article. And sticking with Belichick, the Arthur Blank came out and made a note and told the press that Belichick didn't ask for personnel control. And that again should raise the ears and eyebrows of every Patriots fan out there, because why doesn't he want, well, he's smart enough to know that he doesn't want personnel control, and yet he still didn't get the job. I mean, that's kind of the thing right there. If he didn't ask for personnel control, you would think that Arthur Blank and the Falcons would hire him like that. And they didn't, and I'm pretty sure I brought this up a few weeks ago that he didn't get the job because him and Rich McKay have been button heads for years. And so he is not, and Rich McKay is the president of both the Falcons and the Atlanta United, the MLS team that Blank also owns. And so I was like, okay, he didn't ask for personnel control. They still didn't give him the job, which you're kind of sitting there as a Pats fan thinking, well, you're stupid for admitting that. And then what adds even more fuel to the fire is the fact that both Raheem Morris and the general manager are going to be reporting directly to Blank, and McKay is going to be spending more time with the United than he will with the Falcons. So basically, if you brought Belichick in, Belichick would be reporting to Blank, and McKay would be with the soccer team. What are they doing? At first I thought Belichick screwed this up, and now I'm finding out the Falcons did it to themselves again. Something about Belichick and the Patriots versus the Falcons seems to just have a constant ring to it, doesn't it? It's unbelievable that Arthur Blank did that. And yet, okay, so after that initial thought process, why? Why was that the case? Why did Arthur Blank bring Belichick in twice, never offer him the job, and knows that him and McKay don't get along, yet the new coach and GM are going to be reporting directly to Blank, and McKay's going to have basically nothing to do with the football operations. So then why bring Belichick in? And I think it's because Blank wanted to learn as much as he could about the way Belichick views the game, the way Belichick sees the players, sees the spending, sees how he can just constantly win at a high level and honest and knows the game. It knows the game in the ins and outs. Because if you look at how Shanahan ran the Super Bowl, again, there were instances where it seemed like he didn't know the rules. He didn't know what to do. And that caused a problem for the Niners in the long run. So I'm wondering if Blank brought him in, try to learn as much as he could under the guise of, well, this is an interview. And now he's going to impart all that Belichick, wisdom, well, as much as Belichick would give him, because let's be honest, I think that man's very tight, to the chest. He's not going to, give out every little bit of detail. But Plank is now going to use that and give it to Raheem Morris and say, Morris, study this, learn this, because now you're going to be the guy who is going to impart all of this and make sure that you understand the game. You understand what to do in these types of situations. So I think, it kind of pisses me off to some degree because, again, as much as I, wanted Belichick to retire here, I obviously wanted Brady to retire here, and so there is obviously Belichick couldn't evolve and he couldn't give Brady more leeway. And with the Apple TV Plus, the Dynasty coming out, a 10-part episode, first one drops on Friday. I am pumped and I'm pissed that they're not going to drop it all at once. But I think just how Belichick, it's kind of sad because if Belichick asks for personnel control, then you can sit there and justify the fact that, okay, he wants personnel control. Obviously, look at what's going on here in New England. No one's giving him personnel control. But then for Blank to come to his defense and say he didn't ask for personnel control, but then also go on to say that he didn't even offer him. Well, then what? Then why? Why bother? That's the kind of part that as a Pats fan and as somebody who grew up watching Belichick, not wanting him to be done with the Patriots. I will admit to that. I wanted him done with here in New England because I think the time came. But and then, in essence, screwed him over like that. I was kind of a bad move. Kind of a bad move, in my opinion, because from what it sounds like, he did everything right. You screwed him over. So speaking of New England and coaches, New England's brought in a bunch of coaches, and it's kind of interesting because the big one that we've all been waiting for is who's going to be the offensive coordinator. And it turns out it's this guy from Cleveland, Alex Van Pelt. Now, how did Alex Van Pelt get this job? That's a great question because I'm still trying to figure that out. Because Alex Van Pelt was the 12th guy. He was the 12th man, interviewed because basically interviewed, here's the job. That was it. There really was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so basically what it came down to was pretty much Gerard Mayo, had an exhaustive search, yet none of those guys wanted the OC job here. And to be honest, I don't blame them. And what did Gerard Mayo have to do? Talk to Elliott Wolf and say, "Hey, do you know a guy that we can bring in?" And Elliott's like, "Yeah, I worked with this guy in Green Bay and in Cleveland. Let's do it." So why? So what are we doing? So is Elliott Wolf just going to put together our coaching staff outside of the fact that Gerard Mayo brought in Dont'a Hightower as the linebackers coach, which is like, hey, cool. I got no problem with the defensive coaching staff. That's not where I am concerned, right? I'm not concerned about the defensive side of the ball. I'm not concerned about the defensive coaching staff. It's the offensive side of the ball because that's the side I don't trust. With Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, Devontae Parker as their number one receiver. The only guy I like is on the receiving corps is Kendrick Bourne and Pop Douglas, and Bourne just tore his ACL. So again, it seems to be no hope on the offensive side of the ball. And now you bring in a guy who has never called plays except for one game where it was the head coach, Kevin Stefanski for Cleveland, got COVID, and it was the playoff game, and somehow Cleveland racked up like 40-plus points. So, okay, I like that, but that's a one game. The last time Alex Van Pelt was an OC was in Buffalo in 2009. It's been a while. It's been a while. And listen, he was the OC in Cleveland. I'm not going to deny that, but I mean like from a play calling perspective. So I do like it from the standpoint that, okay, he has experience. He's worked with quarterbacks. He is designed game plans or helped design game plans. But I do have a problem with the fact that he's never called plays except for once. Because play calling is an art form. When you're calling plays on offense, it's an art form. You have to figure out the clock. You have to figure out the timing. You have to figure out who's on the field, who's off the field, who's tired. How's your quarterback? What's your situation like on the O-line? How are they doing in-game versus that D-line? Is your quarterback picking up the coverages? Is he picking up the blitzes? There's so much going on. And again, look at Kyle Shanahan, in this Super Bowl. Coming out of the second half, Kansas City gets the ball. Mahomes throws a pick. What does the 49ers do? 3 straight pass plays. Go 3 and out, punt the ball. Kansas City punts to San Fran. Next possession. 3 straight pass plays. You have Christian McCaffrey as your lead back. So then on the third drive of the second half for San Fran, they run the ball, get no gain, and then pass it 2 more times to get a third 3 and out. Again, it's an art form. You can't just be that consistent. Now, again, Brock Purdy, versus Patrick Mahomes, or even Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. Again, Brock Purdy, the players still have to execute. That's basically what I'm getting at. The players still have to execute the plays. But from the offensive coordinator's perspective, yes, you have to mix and match. You have to outsmart the defense. You have to say, they have this package on the field. That means we're going to do this. So if the defense has a dime package, we're going to send out 4 receivers and have 1 running back, and we're going to run the ball. Because all a dime package is basically 6 DBs, and you have 3 or 4 down linemen. Okay, you have a better chance of running the ball in that situation. Now, I'm getting into the nitty-gritty of football, but it's just that mentality. So I don't know how he's going to do. play con. I don't know how Alex Van Pelt is going to do. I'm worried, but I'm not as worried as, say, bringing in Nick Caley, right? Nick Caley, he was, a tight ends coach, never worked with quarterbacks. He had 1 year outside of New England. So there's still, he's still new. He's still fresh. And I don't want that. I wanted somebody with more experience. And this guy has experience, but to what degree? So I'm going to be watching the offensive side of the ball closely, especially with what this draft is going to bring, because I know he's going to have a say on who he wants. There's no doubt about it. Now, at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure Elliott Wolf is going to be making those decisions. But Alex Van Pelt is going to request, hey, we're 3, Caleb Williams, Drake May are off the board. We have Marvin Harrison Jr. or Jaden Daniels. And he's going to have a decision on who he wants. And it could be Jaden Daniels, Drake May, all right, sitting at 3 because Harrison went at 2. I don't know. There's so much going on that Van Pelt is definitely going to have a say. But at the end of the day, Elliott Wolf is going to be the guy that is going to be making those decisions. And I don't even know how I feel about that. It's not bad. But again, there's just so much with this New England, quote unquote, Patriot way that I almost don't trust many of the guys who have been in this system because of the way Belichick ran it. And I'm afraid that they're going to be doing it the same way or have the similar mindset and not understand how to draft a receiver. Something so basic. Hell, I could have gotten A.J. Brown and Deebo Samuel on this team, in the second round. But nope, they didn't want him. Belichick didn't want him. Crazy. Moving on. Something that struck me. Now, it's going to be quick, but something that struck me was obviously Super Bowl week. You have a bunch of the radio stations out in Las Vegas going, on Radio Row. And so I was watching 98.5, and they had Jacoby Myers sit down and on Felger and Madison, what do they ask? They go, how far apart was New England from the contract that you got in Las Vegas? And when Jacoby Myers finally answered the question, which I can't believe he actually answered the question, he said that New England was $1 million apart and that they wouldn't come up. Like, what? They were $1 million apart from what Jacoby Myers got out in Las Vegas, and yet they wouldn't budge. And again, I'm not saying Jacoby Myers is Randy Moss or Jacoby Myers is, Julian Edelman or, like a stud, Terrell Owens, like a stud receiver. But I am saying that him and Jones had a great chemistry together. And you know what? That play in game number 1 that went to Keyshawn Boutte and he couldn't bring his feet down, I am pretty sure that Jacoby Myers would have got his feet down. Keyshawn Boutte was a rookie. Jacoby Myers has worked with Mac Jones, has been in the system, and it's not like Jacoby Myers was going to have this stellar year, and that this team would have been, 12-5 because Jacoby Myers was still on this team. But there could have been a few differences where New England would have won the game instead of losing the game. And Mac Jones might have not have fallen off such a massive cliff had Jacoby Myers been here. He still probably wouldn't have been great. But that fall would not have been this way. It would not have gone down this way. And speaking of Mac Jones, there have been rumors coming out that he is going to be traded. And I tweeted about this because I saw the article, read it, and was like, you know what? In my mind, these are the three destinations I think Mac Jones would be good in. I think he would be good in Denver to start off, because with Denver, you have Jerry Jeudy, you have Sean Payton, an offensive guy, you have a great receiving core there, and even a decent old line. So I think that would be something where he could thrive in. I also like Minnesota. I like Minnesota because they somehow can find ways to draft young receivers. Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne. They traded for TJ Hawkinson. It's a good offensive system there. Kevin O'Connell, former Patriot quarterback, just saying. And I think Mac Jones could revive his career there. And as for Atlanta, I think, again, same thing. You have a great offensive talent just without a quarterback. Between Kyle Pitts, it's, that and Deontay Robinson at running back. That team is loaded. So that's the type of place where I think he would thrive in. The only problem with Atlanta is the fact that they hired a defensive head coach. So because they hired a defensive head coach, I'm not saying it would be terrible, but between Denver and Minnesota, two offensive coaches, that's where I believe he could thrive in the most. I think he would be best suited to be in Denver or Minnesota. And, I want to hear what you guys think about that. You can hit me up on my Twitter, as you see. Where is it? Right there below. It's at BOS, BOS Sports Summit. Okay. At BOS Sports Summit. I'm also on Instagram, as you can tell over here. Yep. See, it's got the mirror effect. So trying to still figure that out. Boston Sports Summit on Instagram. I'm also on YouTube, and you can find this show on the Grid Network. Now, getting to the Hall of Fame, I have to bring up the Hall of Fame because, once again, Rodney Harrison did not make it. He is the only defensive back in NFL history to have 30 sacks and 30 interceptions. It's kind of big, right? And yet, the Pro Football Hall of Fame does not like him. It's getting to a point where I feel like this is the Baseball Hall of Fame, just in another sport. Rodney Harrison, yeah, he was an outspoken guy. He was passionate. He, rubbed people the wrong way. He laid out the big, bad hits. Yet, I feel like that's why he's judged. I feel like he's judged for that, judged for his attitude. And it bothers me. It bothers me that, the writers and whoever's on each Hall of Fame committee doesn't look at the player. They look at the player's talent, but they also look at his attitude and how he treated them, and thinks to themselves, you know what? I'm going to screw this guy over, so that's why I will not vote for him. Get the hell out of here. Like, really? That's what we're going to do? That's what we're going to do. This is the Hall of Fame. And then you want to talk about the Hall of Fame class that just got inducted. The only two guys I actually agree with are Julius Peppers and Devin Hester. Now, Devin Hester is only in because of how unbelievable his punt and kick returns were. And Julius Peppers was a phenomenal defensive end. Phenomenal. But Dwight Freeney, he was good. You game plan for him. But as his career got on, he was still, he was just blah. He had one good play here and there in a game, but it wasn't great. And then you had Andre Johnson, who, okay, if you give Andre Johnson maybe a better quarterback and a better team, we might be having a different conversation. But he was, again, a very good receiver. I just don't believe that he's a Hall of Fame worthy receiver. And I feel like the Hall of Fames are being just shrouded in mediocre, above average. And I don't want above average. I want guys in the Hall of Fame who are going to be like, you think of this team, you think of that guy. Tom Brady will be a Hall of Famer. Peyton Manning is a Hall of Famer. Devin Hester, when you think of him and how unbelievable skilled he was on those punt and kick returns, Hall of Fame worthy. So it's just kind of frustrating to sit here and Rodney Harrison. I could give you all his stats: 2 Super Bowls, multiple Pro Bowls, again, 30 and 30. No DB has ever done that. So can we sit here and finally get him in the Hall of Fame? It's a travesty that it's the only guys from this Patriot dynasty who are in the Hall of Fame are Ty Law and Richard Seymour. Now, if you want to include Randy Moss, you can, but I mean like true Patriots. And Randy Moss came and went. I love Randy. I love his time here, and he is a Hall of Fame receiver. But, guys who drafted and played here for a majority of their careers, Seymour and Law are the only guys in. And I feel like because New England was always such this team, we are a team mentality, in that some of the defensive guys, especially Willie, Seymour, their jobs were to set the edge. Vrabel, Ninkovich, their jobs were to set the edge, not get after the quarterback and get sacks. They got after the quarterback, don't get me wrong. But sometimes some schemes and systems were designed for the protection of that pocket, so that way that quarterback could not scramble around them in case they just blew right by it, trying to rush the quarterback. If that tackle pushed them up the field rather than them getting around it. So the stats weren't necessarily there for some of these guys. And I feel like that's kind of the biggest travesty of them all.